I did not know just how performative men could actually get. That's until today when I was at the cafe and I saw perhaps the most performative man to ever exist perform. And it was wild. I was just minding my business, getting some work done at the cafe near my house when this random dude walks in that looks like a Timothy Chalamet. And the reason that he caught my attention was because of what he was wearing. I kid you not, he was wearing this red t-shirt with big block letters on it that said Sylvia Plath, and then he had jorts on with two Labubu's clipped onto the belt loops of the shorts. And then he had the quintessential indie boy black wired headphones. So I knew he was performative. I just didn't know how performative he was about to get. Nonetheless, I see this guy walk up to the counter to order, and with the heaviest vocal fry, I hear him go, "Could I get like the matcha latte? But could you use like your most ethical milk, please?" And the barista working there was so sweet because she was clearly confused and she was just like, "Oh, okay, I'll just give you oat milk if that's okay." And it was, and she rang him up. But she goes on to be like, "By the way, there's gonna be a little bit of a wait because I have a couple more drinks to make in front of you." And this dude just completely overcorrects and he's just like, No, don't worry, it's fine. Like, I work in service too, so I completely understand. I'm actually a line cook." And I'm just thinking like a simple no worries would have sufficed. Also, it's important to note that the entire time that he was talking to the barista, he had his black wired headphones on, like over his ears. And I was just thinking like, isn't that a little rude to keep your headphones on when you're talking to someone? Anyways, eventually he gets his drink and he sits down, and he just happens to sit down at my table right in front of me, and not in a weird way. Like, I was at the community table, so it made sense, but I just happened to notice something very odd. His headphones were not connected to his phone, but he was trying to make it seem like they were by wrapping the headphone jack around his phone case. Kind of something like this. And he was like clearly trying to hide it. And I was just thinking like, what are you doing, bro? Fast forward, I kind of forget that this dude is even there, but then I see him leaning on the table in such a weird way that I'm thinking like, what is bro doing? I kid you not, I see this dude sneakily take an AirPod out from his ear from under his headphone, and he puts it into the AirPod charging case. I have to reenact it for you guys because it was crazy. So he just wanted people to think that he was wearing those indie boy black wired headphones. It was crazy because who cares that much? But yeah, I think that may just be the most performative man in the world. But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. So let me know if you guys have any experiences that beat that. Have you guys ever met new parents or like soon to be parents that name their baby something just absolutely diabolical that sets their kid up for a future of humiliation and embarrassment? Because I have. A couple years ago, I met a baby with such an unfortunate name, it's gonna torture them for the rest of their life. I went to this family friend's wedding, and afterwards, my parents got to talking to this random couple that was also at the wedding, who also just happened to have this little baby. And they were just like, "Mark, you have to come over here and look at this baby. It's so cute." So I go over and look at this baby, and it was cute. But the mom of the baby goes on to be like, "Would you like to hold him?" And in my head, I was thinking like, not really, but I didn't want to be rude. So I was like, sure. So she hands this baby over to me, and as she's handing him over to me, she's just like, "He's my bumbalina." And I'm holding him, and I'm just like, so precious. Anyways, as I'm holding him, I go on to ask the mom, like, what's his name? She responds, "Oh, his name is Bumble." In my head, I'm thinking like, that can't be right. You probably thought I asked like how you met your husband. So I ask again. I'm just like, "What's your baby's name?" And she goes, "Yeah, my son. His name's Bumble." After that, I was legitimately stunned. I was just like, oh, cool. But she goes on to be like, "Yeah, we wanted to name him something that represented his dad and his mom's relationship and our love. So we named him after where we met. Bumble." And on the inside, I was like, why would you do that? But I told her, I was like, "That's so sweet." She goes, "Thank you." And I just looked down at this baby in horror. And I just hand the baby back to her. But like, looking back, that is wild. You should not be able to name your child that. Like, imagine having to grow up with that name, knowing you were named after an app. But do y'all know why some parents think it's okay to do things like this? If you were to ask everyone what the best way was to handle someone acting crazy in public, I think the majority of people would be like, oh, try to ignore them or like avoid conflict. But I'm here to tell you that there's actually an alternative. And I would know because I was just on the subway and I witnessed this alternative in action. And it worked. It stopped the crazy person. I was just going home on the subway, minding my business, and it was kind of late at night, so I wouldn't have been surprised if I saw someone acting crazy. But luckily for me, in the car I was in, no one was acting crazy. Or should I say, no one was acting crazy at first. That's until this random dude bursts into the car I was in from the car over, and he just starts making a scene. And by make a scene, he's acting like a bear. Like he has his hands out and he's roaring. He's just like loud as hell. But I see this dude start walking through the train and he's just looking at everyone and like saying slurs. So I look down at my phone to try to ignore him and like avoid eye contact. But eventually he does pass me, saying some very mean things along the way, but passes me nonetheless. And after he passes me, I just keep an eye out on him just to make sure he doesn't get any more aggressive. As I'm watching him, I see him pass this one lady that looks like she just came from work at her office job. Like she's wearing a suit and all. And after he passes her, I see this woman stand up and I'm thinking like, what is she about to do? She proceeds to start roaring like a bear, just like the dude was doing, but like somehow crazier. Like I kid you not, she sounded like an actual bear. And I was thinking like, oh God, like I thought I only had to worry about one person and now I have to worry about two. Anyways, the original dude that caused the scene looks back at this lady and she's still acting like a bear and he has this look of concern and he just completely changes his tune. He stops acting crazy, he stops acting like a bear, and he starts acting like we were acting when we saw him, and he like anxiously walks to the next subway car. After this dude left the car, the woman wearing the suit stops acting like a bear and she just sits back down and starts going on her phone like nothing happened. It was almost as if she had done it before, like she does this every time someone starts acting crazy around her. But like I never thought about that, like out crazy the crazy. Looking back though, I don't even know if that woman was putting on an act because it felt really real. I don't know, is this like a thing people do? If you've ever had a conversation with a conspiracy theorist, you probably know just how crazy their theories can get. But what you may not know is just how funny the theories can also be. And I would know because I had dinner with a conspiracy theorist last night and I was on the floor laughing. Now you see, one of my childhood best friends invited me out to dinner with his family last night. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll go because I've known this kid for so long. His family is pretty much my family. But my friend goes on and he's just like, by the way, my grandpa's gonna be there, so just be prepared. And in my head, I was thinking like, no problem. Like I've met him before. He's a bit of a conspiracy theorist, but like nothing I haven't already heard. So fast forward, I'm at this restaurant with my friend and his family and the grandpa, and everything is normal at first. We're just eating food and like having normal conversation. That's until one of the grandkids at the table goes, Gramps, could you share another one of your super secrets with us? The grandpa goes, of course, sonny boy. And after that, you could hear the collective sigh from all of the adults at the table. But the grandpa goes on to be like, well, you know how the Pope died recently? And the kid's just like, yes. He goes on to be like, well, Pope didn't actually die. He got reincarnated into a new life, and he's about to be born. And this kid goes on to be like, so does that mean that Pope Francis is gonna be a baby again? And the granddad's just like, well, kinda. It's just his name's not gonna be Pope Francis. We don't actually know his name yet. All we know is the mom. Then the kid asks, who's the mom then? And I'm thinking that he's gonna give some like cop-out vague answer. But no, I kid you not, this nearly 80-year-old man, without even trying to be funny, goes on to be like, her name is Trisha Paytas. After that, I was literally on the floor laughing. I had to excuse myself to the bathroom so I could gather myself. But he was dead ass, man. Like, I don't know what mailing list grandpa is in, but they have a sense of humor. Kind of freaky though, because does that mean that our generation's jokes are just misinformation for the older generation? Never in my life though did I think I'd hear an 80-year-old say the name Trisha Paytas. I don't know about you guys, but I did not know that the new LORDE album, like the physical vinyl record that you could buy, came with a very, very explicit photo of LORDE's Nunu. That's until yesterday when I was at Target and I found out about this photo in perhaps the funniest way possible. Now at Target, I was just waiting in line to return an item to the return counter, and there was a couple people in front of me, but the lady right in front of me had caught my attention because she was wearing this shirt that had a giant AI generated portrait of Jesus on her back. So as I was waiting in line to return my item, AI generated Jesus was just staring at me. Anyways, the line eventually slims down, and this Jesus shirt lady right in front of me gets to the return counter, and my curious ass is thinking, like, what is she about to return? I was like, maybe she's returning a Bible or like an infinity scarf, but no, she pulls out the new LORDE album, and in my head I'm like, why does she have the new LORDE album? Because she's not exactly LORDE's demographic, being like a 50-year-old woman. But this woman goes on to hold up the album and in the spunkiest way go, I would really like to return this. And the girl working the return counter was just like, okay, is it opened? And the lady was just like, unfortunately, yes. The girl behind the counter is so nice, and she's just like, unfortunately, I can't give you a refund, but I can give you an exchange. Is that okay? And the lady's just like, an exchange? No way. I don't want anything to do with this album. And the girl working the counter is just like, all right, let me get my manager and we can work something out. And she goes to get her manager and she brings him back. The manager's just like, how can I help you, ma'am? And this lady goes on to be like, I want to return this album because it is blasphemous, not to mention false advertising. Then she pulls out the photo of LORDE's Nunu and she goes, see, blasphemy. And then she turns it around so the rest of the line could see. She went full Karen mode. She goes on to be like, I thought I was getting something that would praise the Lord, but this is not my Lord. And I'm just giggling under my breath because this woman thought the LORDE album was like a Jesus Lord album. And luckily for her, after a little bit more back and forth, the manager was just like, normally I'm not allowed to do this, but I'll grant you a return this one time. And she was allowed to return it. But it's just so funny thinking about it because this woman goes to the store, buys this album thinking that she just bought a Jesus album, and then goes home and opens the album and sees that explicit ass picture. That's just so funny. And looking back, it does make sense to me why she thought it was a Jesus album, because her name is LORDE and the album is called Virgin, so like it makes sense. The other day, I was just hanging out with my friend, and somehow me and him got to talking about that T app, and he was just like, Mark, I so badly wish I had access to the T app. And I was just like, why? Because if you don't already know, that app is only meant for women so they can review men for their own safety. So I was like, why do you want access to that? And my friend was just like, no, Mark, trust me, I'm not being creepy. I want access because I was hanging out with Lexi the other day, and she was on the T app, and she was showing me how she used it, and she doesn't use it in the normal way. And I was just like, how does Lexi use the app? He goes on to tell me that he was hanging out with Lexi at this cafe because they're both in college and they both hadn't scheduled their classes for next semester. So he was like, why not do it together? So they met at this cafe. My friend goes on to be like, yeah, as we were scheduling our classes, Lexi pulled out the T app and she was using it to choose which male professor to go with her class schedule. And I was just like, so she's using it as rank my professor? Like, why doesn't she just use rank my professor? Because that's what I did in college. My friend responds telling me it is so much better than rank my professor because the women on there are really, really honest. You can tell if your professor is funny, if they're good at communicating, if they like their job. And I was just like, wait, that makes so much sense because you can't really get a sense of what someone's personality is gonna be like anywhere else online. Now that I think about it, this could be a good way to hire someone for like a job, but maybe that's getting a little bit too dystopian. I don't know. What do you guys think? A couple months ago, I saw this video of this dude talking about how spiders in your home memorize your routine so they can avoid you. And when I first saw that video, I didn't really believe it because it's like, they're just spiders. They can't be that smart, right? Wrong. Because recently, I have noticed a spider in my house that has memorized my routine, and no one believes me. I first started noticing this when I went to bed because every night before going to bed, I put one AirPod in and listen to music because it helps lull me to sleep. And then at some point in the night, I'll take my AirPod out and put it on my side table because I'm too lazy to put it back in its AirPod case. So every night, this little AirPod is just sitting on my side table for the majority of the night, and I don't think much of it. That's until a couple of nights ago, I just happened to get up in the middle of the night and I saw a little itty bitty spider right next to my AirPod, and I freaked out a little bit and the little guy ran away. And then I noticed that my AirPod was still playing my calming classical music. So I was just like, Was he listening to my music? But I brush it off because that's crazy. It's just a spider. Spiders don't listen to music. Fast forward to the next night. I just happened to wake up in the middle of the night yet again, and guess who I see right next to my AirPod? It was the same spider, and my AirPod was playing calming classical music. So I freaked out again, and the spider ran away, and I was just thinking, like, what is going on? I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want this to be true, so I just wrote it off as a weird coincidence. That's until last night. My AirPod had run out of battery, but I still wanted to listen to my calming classical music before bed. So I was like, you know what? I'll just play it out loud through my speaker. So that's what I did. So I'm asleep, my calming classical music is playing, and all of a sudden I have the urge to go to the bathroom. So I wake up, and I kid you not, I see this spider on top of my speaker. But he wasn't just standing there idle. I swear, for a moment, I saw this little guy shaking like he was dancing. Then I see this mother trucker turn, look at me, and then run away. Like, this is not a spider. This is a stalker. And it's crazy because I never see him during the day, but I know he's here. Also, I tried telling my friends about it, and they were all like, oh, you're crazy, Mark, you're crazy. But I know what I saw. Spiders are smarter than you think. They really can memorize your routine. Let me know if y'all have any experiences like this, because we really do need a community.